Hey guys, so welcome back to my channel to Pillow Talk with me, Ashley. So today we're just going to talk on some things that I spoke on in my previous videos about my transition from Baltimore to New York to now LA. And I just wanted to go ahead and talk about that transition with you guys. If any of you are thinking about moving somewhere, or if you've really been passionate about this one thing you've been thinking about for so long, and then you kind of just don't know where to start or don't know how to do it. So I'm just gonna share my personal story about how I did my transition, and then hopefully, I don't know, somehow it can help you get the courage to go for it. So we started in a town called Baltimore, Maryland. It's like I'm just saying, I'm gonna get serious. Okay, so Baltimore is, as I said before, that's my hometown. I grew up there, but I traveled a lot when I was younger. I always knew that that wasn't somewhere I wanted to live. It's weird. I've known that since from a really young age that Baltimore wasn't somewhere I wanted to be. Not because of a stereotype from Baltimore. Most people from Baltimore, I'm just gonna say it. Most people from Baltimore don't realize like this whole like they don't realize that you're really in this thing that people think of you, because Baltimore really isn't what people say it is. Of course, every town or every city has a place where you're like, oh, don't go there, like that's bad, like of course there are places in Baltimore where you do not you do not want to go, but there's other places, and there's culture, there's a lot of places to go where you can still enjoy yourself and live your life and be successful. I know there's so many people that I know that are from Baltimore who have gone to be very successful, and you should never let a place that you come from stop you from doing great things. And you should never let negative things that other people are saying about you to say that that's what you are. Because I've known that me leaving Baltimore from what the stereotype is, people saying, "Oh, isn't that the place where that show is? Like, that's that. Isn't it just like that? It's hood, it's ratchet, it's this, and that." But that's just, they forget that that's one area usually that Baltimore is like that. And to be positive, you don't let a stigma and a stereotype make you who you are. And I would never let me leaving Baltimore people think, "Oh, that's that hood girl," I mean, that's not even the case. Like, I grew up in the county, small, I grew up in the county, very sheltered. I was homeschooled. Like, that's not even the case. Like, of course, there were instances where I could have, gotten in those trouble situations where I've had a bad group of friends, especially when I started public school. But I didn't let those negative things get me and bring me down and make me into a person that I knew that I wasn't. But anyway, we're gonna go back to that. I can make a separate video about that too. So Baltimore, after I graduated Towson University with my BFA in dance and choreography, I just knew that I had to be in New York from my previous experience of traveling there when I was younger. I know my parents, I was sheltered, so they didn't really like me doing the whole traveling back and forth to New York, but I pressed them so much to just like let me go. There were so many times where I had to go with like a family member or like a friend or something. Like, they didn't let me go like physically by myself to New York, traveling there like on the bus, until I was like in my 20s. Like, so yeah, that was really serious. And even the dance programs in New York, like they didn't even let me do that until I was like, I think I was 20 when I first went to New York for a dance program. And I learned so much, and just traveling can just put so much culture inside of you, and you experience so many different people, and you learn so much about yourself, and like things that you like, what you don't like, what to do, what not to do, what people to be around, what people to not be around. So it's not necessarily like being in one town being in one town doesn't really like stop you from experiencing that culture. Like you could still get that in a town, but it's nothing like experiencing other people from other towns. You know what I'm like? Get what I'm saying? You really learn a lot. Like in New York, the programs that I did, there was a lot of people that were from all over the world. Like I met people, and some of my closest friends that I know are from dance, and they are from China. They're from like Ukraine. They're from like England, Switzerland. Like it just like it's all over, and I love it. Japan, like I can name so many different countries, and you learn so much, and you find out about their culture, and that helps you to grow as an individual as well. You'd be surprised, honestly. So after I graduated, my parents, they knew that was something I wanted to do, and they tried their best to help me do that. They were like, we know this is where you need to be, so we're gonna, we're gonna really help you out. And I know not a lot of parents are really out there helping and supporting their children, but one thing that I'm grateful for is that I had parents that, they did their best to give all me and my brothers and sisters their best chance, Oh, I didn't say this, but I have 4 brothers and 1 sister. There's 6 of us. So you can only imagine how that was growing up. And, sometimes things were tight, and we didn't always get whatever we wanted. But for some reason, somehow, God made a way, and my parents really just pushed for that. So I had a graduation party. We always love a party. and for that party, my parents, they told everyone, Ashley, she is going to New York and she's moving there. Not saying, we did it for donation, but I think, my parents have really good friends, and we have really good family members who came out. It was actually, surprisingly, more of my mother's friends came out than anyone. My mom's really a good woman, and she had a lot of friends that came out, and I literally just bought a whole bunch of booze. Like, I bought a whole bunch of wine, a whole bunch of alcohol for them, because I was like, y'all are probably going to be giving me a whole bunch of gifts and presents and money. And that was one of, the many celebrations I've had where people were so generous to me, and they knew about my dreams, and they knew about my goal, because my parents would always, express that. They were very open with people about the things that we did, growing up. All my siblings, they were really very very proud of us, and luckily, I ended up saving a whole bunch of money, I ended up saving a whole bunch of money after college. I did a few jobs, and from that party, people were so generous, and I had so much money. I just had so much. I was so thankful and grateful for everyone. I would never take that for granted, ever. So, long story short, I'm in New York City in my apartment with my 2 roommates. It's in Brooklyn. It's in Bed-Stuy. At the time, because I'm such a county girl, and when I did visit New York those other times, I really thought this area was mad hood. Y'all, it was hood. But the apartment was nice. It was renovated. The landlord, he was okay. I don't know. He was okay. But he was pretty nice, and at the time I was living off of all the money that I saved. I wasn't working at the time, so I was really just grinding, dancing, trying to book as much as I could. I had an agent at the time. I signed with her as soon as I got there, and it was going pretty well in the beginning. I was doing all the things that I needed to do, and I could talk about that a little bit more on what you need to prepare for an agent and all that, blah blah blah. I'll get to that eventually, but for the most part, everything was good. I was taking class, grinding, working on my shape, trying to get smaller. Right now I am at one of my smallest sizes. I was a little bit bigger, probably more muscular too. But I was still working on my size at the time, and just going to auditions, and going to the gym, going to take class. That was my everyday regimen. Take class, go to the gym, auditions. And it was repeat every day. After a while, those classes started to add up, y'all. So I had to find me some work. I started working at restaurants as hostess. And throughout that, like, I literally just, like, I don't know, somehow got lost up in that, in the working. And I was like, working in New York and having a passion is like hard. It's hard because you come home and you've been like, especially if you've been standing up all day, you just don't want to go take class. You kind of just like want to go home, rest, have a glass of wine, cuddle up because it's cold, you know, like it's just not. And I think that's what made me like feel less motivated. I was like depressed. At the time, like my agency wasn't really sending me out for stuff as much. I was just like, what's going on? Like, what do I need to work on? What do I need to do? And I kind of got lost, if that makes sense. Like, lost in the sauce. I don't know. I got lost, and I had to reevaluate what I was even doing there to begin with, you know. And then I was kind of getting comfortable with where I was, and that it was weird because like that usually never happens to me. It was like I was more focused on just like living and working and trying to make a living for myself, you know, with having to, you know, really grind it out. Like, this is the real world. You're not in college anymore. You're not with your parents anymore. Like, you are on your own. And just trying to make that work. And surprisingly, you guys, dancers, when we get booked for certain jobs, like, you would think like these big names, you know, I worked at MTV, you know, as a dancer, and you would think that they will pay you a certain amount of money because they're getting so much money from you being there, you know, and they really don't pay that good. And I can also make a video on that, on the certain pay. Like, some places they pay their dancers really, really well, but other places they're just like trash. Like, you would be surprised. Like, some of these artists, you know, you work with, and they're high, they're like J-Lo, or like, not saying that J-Lo does that. I've never heard anything of J-Lo. I've heard good things about J-Lo and her dancers, as well as Beyonce. But there are some artists out here, you know, they want dancers, but they don't want to pay, you know, and that was kind of something that was happening to me too. I was booking dance jobs, but I was working with artists, and I was working on MTV, and I was doing some print work and stuff, and I was doing some modeling stuff, and it was like they didn't want to pay a certain amount of money. And at the time I was like, oh well, you know, work is work, you gotta just do this. But no, you have to set your standards, set your price. It doesn't matter how high this person is. Like, that's one thing I've learned in this industry, is you have to tell yourself what your worth is, and you have to tell yourself, no, I'm not going to just do this work just because of this person's name. At the end of the day, y'all, who is going to put that food on our table? Like, we got to still eat, and it's no job that can amount to us eating and surviving and paying the bills. Like, somebody got to pay it. I mean, if they're going to say, oh, we'll pay your bills if you do this job, I'm going to be on set in the morning. Like, I'm ready to go. Let's go. And then the thing is, you know, most people who are really passionate about whatever they do, if it's dance, whatever, acting, modeling, it doesn't have to be industry work. Whatever you do and you're passionate about it, you know, you really work hard at what you do, so you should get the same in return. So I ended up leaving New York, and I had to leave my boyfriend at the time. I think we were together for we were almost 1 year when I decided to move. And this was this past June when I left, and our anniversary was in July. So it was kind of tough leaving, but I knew it was something that I had to do for myself personally, for my own growth, you know, getting myself to where I need to be. And my initial transition was not easy at all. You know, I literally just jumped. I saved up as much as I could. Like I said before, was working about like 4 or 5 jobs at the time. I wasn't dancing. All I was doing was working. And I moved with whatever I saved, and I had a plan. I had a plan, but, you know, sometimes the plans don't always go as we think, you know. And even from when I was in New York, like, I learned so much about myself and about how to, you know, adult, and how to try to balance, like, my career and, you know, financial things, and just, you know, being a person, an individual, and caring for others. Like, I learned a lot in New York I learned about hardship, hard times, and things like that. But I had to go, and I think it definitely helped me for where I am now in LA. And oh, like I was saying before, I planned so much, but it didn't go as planned. Like, I was like, oh, I'm gonna come here, I'm gonna find a job. I had a job planned out, you know, I was gonna go, of course, do something in a restaurant, you know, server or hostess or something, until I could, you know, get myself on my feet and where I need to be. At the time, I was staying with a friend, or who I thought was a friend, but it didn't end up turning out as well as I thought. You know, that person really made my time here pretty difficult for me, and I don't even think they really realized it. You know, so we, at the time I came, and we stayed in an Airbnb, and that Airbnb, it took that person a while to, you know, pay their end when I was getting everything planned and set. And I'm the type of person that I like to move when I need to move, and we got to get it done. And it kind of set me back a little bit when they couldn't pay their portion on time, and it all came. Y'all know Airbnb, it all came out of my account at once. And I was just like, wow, like, I had other things I needed that money to spend on, and it took that person like a few weeks to get me the money. And that little bit that they thought that was, you know, not a lot, that, oh, she's fine, I know she's good, she's always on her stuff, that little bit of, you know, not being considerate really set me back for the whole summer. So I was a little bit behind on my tuition for my dance. Like, it kind of just threw me for a loop, and it took me some time to find work, but I still made it work. You know, God always makes a way, y'all. God makes a way. And I literally just grinded off of the things that I had, and I was resourceful, and anyone that wanted to pitch in and help me, I made sure I used that. Like, I didn't always Uber all the time. I really had good people sometimes that would help me get around back and forth. And I ended up finding work, and I worked there for a while, and the restaurants. But it just, something about the going back to the restaurants, just like, it was a trigger. I had to get out of there. So I eventually started training for Tracy Anderson. It's a fitness method that's very popular here in LA, and it started here in LA, and now I'm currently doing that, which is why the body is like getting snatched, you know. But yeah, so I eventually went on and did that, and I've been doing that ever since about August, and it's literally the best thing I ever did. And I'm currently going out to audition for dance agencies. I've been meeting with a print and commercial agency coming up, and it's just, God's just blessing me, and I finally found my apartment in September. I have good people around me that help me get through my transition, and I'm very thankful for that. And I'm thankful to have this place, because it was very hard to get here. At the time, me getting to this point of this apartment, I was still paying for tuition for my dance. Y'all, the tuition was like crazy, okay? Like, training is not cheap, but I had to make the sacrifice. And just paying for tuition, and I was paying for my Airbnb, and I was just like, wow, like, how am I gonna get my apartment? Like, I have all these other things I'm focusing on, and like, I was helping family too financially, because I have a business with my family too, and I was just like, this is crazy. I need to focus on Ashley. And I finally I got it to work, and I got my place, and I'm just very thankful for the people in my life. I'm thankful for my support system. Y'all, support system is the key. Make sure you have good people around you. Stay positive. Read up on positive thinking books. Change your mind. And there's a way is always going to be made. That's it for today, and I'll be back another time to talk about my some other positive thinking methods that I have. And thank you so much. Please like and subscribe down below. Bye, guys. Thank you for tuning in.